Untamed is going to be untamed. It's going to be a little crazy. I want to talk to my people. I want to talk to my brothers and sisters. We can have grace and humility in how we interact with other people.
Oh, hot dog, look at you.
And nobody talked about what's really happening.
And let's have conversations about what truth is.
In September 2020, FEC United founder Joe Oltmann had infiltrated Antifa to uncover journalists who were active members of the Antifa group attacking his company in Colorado. Joe, you infiltrated an Antifa conference call this past September and accidentally came upon a top Dominion voting systems executive named Eric Coomer. Describe that call and what it led you to find.
It was interesting how the call started. Somebody says, "Who's Eric?" He says, "Eric's a Dominion guy." Someone actually said, "Hey, go ahead." Told him to continue speaking. And someone interrupts and says, "What are we going to do if effing Trump wins?" And Eric responds, and I'm paraphrasing this, by the way, "Don't worry about the election. Trump is not going to win. I made effing sure of that." And then they started laughing, and somebody says effing right. And so I just put a simple Google search to start, which was Eric, Dominion, Denver, Colorado. And Eric Coomer came up immediately under Dominion voting systems.
Turns out Eric Coomer held a top position at Dominion. With a PhD in nuclear physics, Coomer joined Dominion as vice president of engineering and holds several patents with Dominion, ensuring users can adjudicate ballots from the machines. The very function Ron Watkins pointed out as a huge red flag. After the election, Oltmann was sent an article highlighting Eric Coomer from Dominion. Oltmann started looking into Eric again. Eric was the director of strategy and security at Dominion and a shareholder in the company.
When I got into his Facebook page, that's when things really started to kind of come together for me that Eric Coomer was this, that he was not just Antifa, he was responsible for putting his finger on the scales of our election.
And Dominion seemed to be a friendly place for such anti-Trump sentiment. Coomer goes on to travel to battleground states all of 2019.
Whatever they were building to coming into the 2020 election, that he made sure it happened. He made sure that that Dominion voting systems was in all the battleground states for the 2020 election.
Coincidentally enough, I'm wearing the same blue type of shirt that I was wearing in that. I was not wearing the same blazer, though, so maybe I should have. But I want to say happy birthday to Eric Coomer. It is his birthday today. And I put this post up that I think it's important for us to take a look at. Put the post up. Let's put the post up. Breaking and not so sure you understand this coincidence. President Trump planned his announcement today. Did you know what else is today? It's Eric Coomer's birthday. The radical leftist Dominion Director of Strategy and Security who sued me and others for speaking truth about him. The same one that went to Fulton County grand jury to testify to have President Trump indicted. That don't worry about it. Trump's not going to win. I made effing sure of it. The skinhead, drug-addicted Antifa radical that posted about killing cops, dead presidents, and how he hated President Trump while in the driver's seat for over 50% of the vote of the American people. That had a key role in our election systems. Yeah, that Coomer. The same Eric Coomer that ran into a building, lied to the police over and over again. The same one that wrote about raping his then wife and making her bark like a dog. The same one that gave Serbian coders access to the code for Dominion systems. The same Coomer that was the chief architect of Sequoia voting systems in 2005 that was owned by Smartmatic, which was owned by Venezuela. Yep, that same one. The Swiss Army knife for Dominion CEO John Polis. I don't believe in coincidences. Today will be a great day. Happy birthday, Eric. I pray you get everything you deserve and more. I pray no one softens the blow of today and President Trump lets the full boom down on the head of those who have wronged our nation. And there is Eric Coomer today. It's pretty close to what he looks like right now. And that leads to something else. There is a ton of emails. We're going to have some guests that show up. So just tell me if you would when guests do show up. I'll bring them right in because we want to spend the time to wish Eric Coomer a happy birthday. So I brought some guests in to say happy birthday to Eric as well. It's been an interesting set of circumstances that led us here. For those of you that don't know, I gave a deposition last week. I was pretty upset over the fact that I think I've given 7 or 8 depositions. But in that, they called me a Russian agent. They said that they made the accusation that I put tracking devices on their vehicles for the lawyers. They said that I had somebody in a park that was watching them. They tried to discount people coming to my home with guns and the powder that came through the mail, and made up some huge story that I finally had to go back and get other affidavits, which we have, that kind of walk through disproving the things that they just made up, because that's all they do is make up things. And then we have this is from the skiff that Eric's emails. For anyone that hasn't seen the old document from Eric Coomer from Dominion when he used to be with Sequoia, he blatantly talks about transmitting data from their machine through a wireless modem, including vote tallies, updates, changes, voter rotation, representation. These machines were specifically designed for fraud. How much proof do you want? And there you have it for Eric Coomer. This is Eric Coomer, and it goes through and it says, this is a new functionality on election night. And this was way back in, I think it was 2006. Yep, April 25th, 2006. Now, they've denied a lot of this stuff, but it goes through the log and saying that, trust us, bro. Trust us. We have access to the machines. We can go in and change whatever we want, Wreck-It Ralph. But you have to trust us because we're trustworthy. We get access to everything. He also admitted that he gave access to Serbians, to the source code in Denver, Colorado. Said, well, he didn't have access to the machines at the local level. And I go, man, it gets worse and worse. You have actual county clerks that are saying, I don't have control of our election systems. Today, multiple states, it's now Liberty Vote. And again, of course, Liberty Votes is just passing it from one cartel ownership to another. But I want to show you this. This is Patrick Byrne talking about Coomer admits in his deposition as far as the Coomer v. Byrne. Byrne was sued as a result of this as well. Let's go ahead and play it.
There were remote desktops, but those were direct as far as my understanding of the implementation. There were remote desktops, just like at the city warehouse, and they were direct fiber lines from the city house to the central office. That completely blows up the whole story. He's now acknowledging that he was on the machines during the election of 2020 on a remote desktop, which is what I've been telling you for, for a year and a half. I've been talking about there's been this virtual machine created inside the system that they do all their shenanigans from, and then they erase it. And that's why there's almost no trace of anything unless you get the heart of the hard drive itself. Can you find, if you look in the right places, the traces that show that that's what happened? That's why all the legal battles were about preventing anyone from inspecting the equipment. So that's a huge bombshell. The significance of that is, on 2022 and elsewhere in this, he talks about Serbia. He's talking about the folks in Serbia accessing the code. He's accessing the Dominion systems. Oh, but he says they just get the code repository. Well, I'm telling you, that's a flat lie. They get access to the whole system, including the remote desktops on the machines in the counties where you're voting. This blows a hole in the waterline of what you've been hearing for 5 years and 3 months. That these things aren't connected, they can't be connected. Even Dominion couldn't interfere in the election. They don't have any connectivity. It's all a lie. They have connectivity. They're on the machines once you're inside the system, whether it be in the city warehouse or anywhere within the network, you're within the network. So it's all been a lie. When faced in a deposition with his own emails and stuff, he sat there and he acknowledged, yes, I had VPN access to these machines. He goes on to describe the second VPN network, the secret one, which we knew about, that there was a secret one.
It just unravels over and over and over again. 5 years later, we learn about things related to the Serbians. Now, we were already told before that they basically built the code. He said he never actually wrote an ounce of code. He wasn't responsible for it. He contradicted himself in so many different ways. from what he testified at the grand jury indictment of President Trump that led to the indictment of President Trump, all the way down to the things that he had to admit once they knew that they had access to those emails. Now, he had help. He had judges that stood in the way in the Dominion v. Patrick Byrne case. All of that information was sealed. So it can't be used. Now we have evidence that shows that Eric Coomer is involved in it, that he was on that call, that he actively participated and bragged about it. And nothing's changed other than the fact that now Eric Coomer doesn't live in the United States. His lawyers have been caught lying more times than it's easier for them to breathe than it is for them to, or easier for them to lie than it is for them to breathe. And let's not forget. Let's talk about the prime time. Let's talk about what's happening tonight. President Trump plans to announce his prime time address, bombshell evidence that China interfered in the 2020 election to help Joe Biden win. I don't think that's right, actually. And discloses that there are over 100,000 non-citizens, including illegal aliens, on the voter rolls. Here's the problem. We got to the bottom of it with the Mesa County reports. Those are machines. The stealing of elections is quite evident all over the place. Now, let's not forget that today is Eric Coomer's birthday. President Trump could have done this every single day of the week, but he chose today. Why? And I don't want you to forget this. This is a clip from the former Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, talking about foreign interference. Now, could there be foreign interference? Yes. But was it facilitated by people who are domestic terrorists in our country? Yes, it was. Let's go ahead and play it.
And lastly, sir, as you know, declassification and rooting out weaponization, politicization of the intelligence community is a huge priority. You know more than anyone else the very dangerous and negative consequences of that. I've got a long list of things that we're investigating. We have the best of the best going after this. Election integrity being one of them. We have evidence of how these electronic voting systems have been vulnerable to hackers for a very long time and vulnerable to exploitation to manipulate the results of the votes being cast, which further drives forward your mandate to bring about paper ballots across the country so that voters can have faith in the integrity of our elections.
All right. So I just want to, on the heels of that, we talked a little bit about what Patrick Byrne stated. We are joined by Patrick Byrne to wish Eric Coomer a happy birthday. Patrick, welcome to the show.
Hello, Joe. Hello, Eric. Hello, Eric. Happy birthday.
You know, it was a coincidence. I mean, it's quite the coincidence. Is it not quite the coincidence?
I'm sure it's a coincidence, but these things happen. I'm trying to get myself centered. It must be.
There you go.
These things happen. It's kind of funny. You and I were last together with Eric Coomer in a room, right?
We were.
Have you told your people about that strange day, about the fist fight the guy tried to pick?
Yeah, he tried to pick a fight with Peter Ticktin. We talked about it. I think I had you on here, and you described it as, by the way, I've seen Patrick is one tough dude because he wasn't having it. He's like, oh, you want to pick on him? Well, pick on me.
You know what was funny about that, though? So I don't know if you remember the actual chain of events for about 30 seconds. You were out in the lobby.
I was.
And you were over, if I remember correctly, you overheard them talking, and you sent a text to us saying you just overheard them say this deposition cannot go forward. Under no circumstances can it go forward. And I got that text and I read it. And I thought, that seems odd. And then a few seconds later, I see Peter Ticktin come in, and Peter's 80th birthday a couple of days later. And this other fellow, you're a pretty stout guy. And the guy, I think his name's Kane.
Charlie Kane, his attorney.
Charlie Kane, he's a tough guy like you. He came in, and this would happen right next to me, and he got up and he pinned Peter against this table. So Peter's legs were against the table. He was bent over. And I jumped up, and it took me a second to process it because I thought it was it took me 5 seconds longer to process it than it should have, or 3 seconds. I jumped up and I stepped in, and I even then first just tried to, and And usually when you do this between two guys, they separate. That guy Payne, he wouldn't budge. And I had to give him, I'd say like a 30%. I used to be a pulling guard, offensive lineman. And I took a step back and I gave him about a 30% of what a full dose would have been, but to knock him off Peter. And, this all went before, they're making a big deal of it. My understanding is the judge in Tampa recently said, well, I saw the videos because after I knocked him off Peter, he kept still lingering around. So I sort of did the bar room, I just got between him and elbow.
I was there. I was like, Patrick.
You kept saying he's trying to, don't hit him. He's trying to get the deposition canceled. Don't hit him. But so I was like, horse between two bales of hay, trying to figure out what to do. But then I did kind of shove the guy and keep him back. That part ended up on film. The judge recently, there was a hearing or something, because they're trying to make a big stink about this. I did hear that the judge, correct me, but the judge ruled, like, I don't like the way Byrne acted in that video, but forget about Byrne. If you guys want to keep pursuing this, you gotta, they're taking it somewhere. Did you know that that other Charlie, is it Kane or Payne?
Kane. Charlie Kane.
They're trying to make it like an assault between him and Peter. They're trying to. Are you aware of that?
But we slowed down the video and saw where Charlie Kane in the video in the lobby assaulted. Charlie Kane assaulted Peter. So you were able to slow it down. You can see where Charlie Kane actually pushes him. So
that's the same thing he did when they came into the room. I had trouble processing him. I thought, lawyers love to posture, especially in front of their clients. They love to posture, and I didn't really quite believe it. I thought it was almost play acting for a few seconds till I saw Peter with his legs pinned against the table and being bent over backwards. I thought it was kind of play acting. Sorry.
No, but you got yourself composed. You got yourself composed. Eric Coomer walks in, like, I saw everything. I was like, you didn't see anything, you liar. Did that guy?
After it broke up. He caught after it broke up.
Yeah.
That first time. Then he jumps in and says, I've seen everything, and he's filming it. Yeah. And what he caught was just the part where I'm sort of keeping with my elbow, shoving this guy Kane so he can't step closer to Peter again.
The bad part about it is that there was enough witnesses in there that show that Charlie Kane was the aggressor. And I had sent that text message to the group before I walked back into the room saying, hey, this is what I think I overheard when they were at the table, 2 tables down from me. They didn't recognize that I was literally sitting 2 booths down from them inside the lobby when they said, hey, we can't have this deposition. We can't go forward with this deposition.
Did you also notice something else that day about Coomer?
Well, he lied and contradicted himself in multiple different ways, and then filed another show cause, but said that we divulged information. I was like, that information was not a part of the deposition. That's information that proves that you lied. Sorry.
Yeah. He flat contradicted himself from Georgia. I remember this moment, whenever you do a 8-hour deposition, the first hour is tell us where you grew up, where'd you go to high school, where'd you go to college, what's your favorite vegetable, all kinds of, you just sort of, I don't know why they do it, but it's always the same. And then they get into it. And about 45 minutes into it, the first tough questions started coming. And there was this moment I just saw the guy pause, take a breath, and just start lying. And just started lying, and he just lied the rest of the day. And what's funny is I also remember how he, do you remember there was a point in the day, I was at least trying to be civil and nice and make conversation. And normally, who wants to sit there all day being an asshole to each other? Right. So you can at least, when the camera's off, you can at least be, you were, and I said, I heard you're a climber. And I was trying to be positive. And he's a good climber. He's a fantastic climber. I think he said he climbed 514s, which is about as good as you get. Not 514D, but anyway, very, very, almost the toughest things that can be climbed. And I was just trying to be nice. And everything I said, he thought I was trying to
Mocking
find
him.
some way to dab him.
You thought you were mocking him. Hey, Stephanie's here. Do you want her to join us as well, or do you want to have her come in after your? You want to?
No, have her join.
I think
Have
have
her
a party. Let's bring Stephanie in too.
Hey guys. Hi, how are you?
Oh, we get to see your picture. That's it. We don't get.
Look, I had no notice. I'm working, Joe, and I joined, and I don't even know what you two are talking about. It can't be good. And so I'm not sure why you're inviting me on, but it's good to see you guys.
It's good to see you. We were just going to wish.
Good to see you.
We're going to wish Eric Coomer a happy birthday. Today's his birthday.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Oh gosh. Okay. So do you think he's in the US celebrating? Do you think, did he come to see the president's speech live?
I think maybe he did. You think maybe when came Patrick to see the president live tonight? Maybe go see the president's speech?
I doubt he'll be in the Oval Office. He indicated to us he lives overseas. And it looked to me like he was trying to get out of the country as quickly as he can, but he still has to do a bunch of depositions and appearances. He made some kind of motion to a judge saying, I don't want to do any more depositions, but it's like, because it's the same questions, but it's like he sued all these different people. Each one of them gets to depose him. Doesn't he have a deposition coming up, Stephanie?
He had one and he has one more, I believe. I'll have to look at that. But Patrick, were you guys talking about, you're saying, fleeing. Were you on here talking about your findings here with Federico Arnao and moving and what happened with that November timeframe?
No, that's let's talk about that. Now we're talking about more about the fisticuffs between me and Charlie Payne.
Kane.
Well, I'm not going to go into that, but all I can say is I know Peter's frail, which he'll never admit, right? He's a frail 80-year-old man, over 80. And I know that you were absolutely protective and just very upset with what happened. But let's not go into that. The address issue, Coomer has disputed over and over again on public record, allowing anyone to learn where he's currently residing, and it's clear it's not in the U.S. But there's been talk where it's just gaslighting, where people say, "Oh, the Venezuelans had nothing to do with the U.S. elections," right? Well, some of the original Smartmatic employees and contractors that are from Venezuela were living in Venezuela when they were modifying for Sequoia. Smartmatic was the parent of Sequoia until 2009 when Dominion acquired Sequoia and essentially Smartmatic. Those individuals brag publicly on their resumes what they did and when. And Federico Arnao is one of the filers of the pizza corporate documents and worked for Smartmatic, and then was working for Sequoia. And he, on his own resume, says that he was working for a year and 2 months on the transition team for Dominion when Dominion took over. So these Venezuelans moved over to Dominion, implemented the same organization to a large extent, along with the tech. Well, November 11th, Patrick was able to determine Federico Arnao moved. He sold his home in Colorado like days after Trump won the 2024 election. And I think it was November 11th, 24. He sold his house. And Patrick, take it from here. Tell us who purchased the home and all of those details.
Well, first of all, this house had other people living in it, including a woman.
No. That's Morales' home.
Oh, that's Morales' home, but also in Denver.
Yeah, in Colorado, I think of Aveda. I think.
This is hilarious. Ronald Morales had a home in Denver. That living in the home is this woman we put up on. I think. Anyway, a woman who's a Venezuelan, comes out of PDVSA, comes out of Smartmatic, and went on and was working in NIST, the National Institute for Science and Technology,
Standards and Technology,
which is
NIST.
which works with the EAC to set the standards for the election equipment.
Yeah.
So she's working in NIST, but she's one of this. These are like two. The Arabs have a saying: people can be two asses in one pair of underwear. This is, this is like six asses in one pair of underwear. So they got their own Venezuelan communications engineer in NIST advising the EAC about security. Anyway, Ferdinand Arnau owned a house. And by the way, these people, I was on a show, Emerald or Alex the other day, where we put up their LinkedIn profiles, and their LinkedIn profiles say, I was at Smartmatic, then I moved to Sequoia, then I moved to Placer County, California. Then I moved to Tarrant County, Texas, and running elections. Then I moved to EAC, and now I'm back at running Dallas County elections. This is their LinkedIn. So the idea that this Venezuelan junk didn't make it on shore. Anyway, Ferdinand Arnau, Trump wins, big surprise, because they got caught by an uppercut. He wins in November 5th, 2024. November 11th, this guy sells his house in a quickie sale, it looks like. Because I've looked, can't find any record it was listed before that. Now I have been done, I'm not 100% satisfied, but I did a quick check. I don't think it was listed beforehand. They weren't expecting Trump to win. Who does he sell it to? He sells it to a fellow. Do you remember the guy's name, Stephanie?
I remember his title, VP of Tech.
Yeah, I remember. He was with Booz Allen in McLean, Virginia. Now, Joe, you're a sophisticated man of the world. What do we know about Booz Allen in McLean, Virginia?
Well, it's the CIA. I mean, if you talk about McLean,
CIA.
Virginia, yeah, I mean, it's.
And Booz Allen's also the company that leaked Trump's tax returns.
Yes.
So
it was Christopher Meyer, Patrick.
Christopher Meyer. So Christopher Meyer of Booz Allen, McLean, Virginia, suddenly buys Ferdinand Arnau's home less than a week after Trump has a surprise victory. Sure surprised the other guys. Surprise victory. He sells his home. Who knows where Ferdinand Arnau is today? I'm sure it's someplace warm and sunny, though.
I think it's Federico Arnau, Arnao.
You're right, Federico Arnau. My guess is Coomer and those guys, they're probably over in Greece or over in Serbia or somewhere.
You're really close.
What?
Now you're close. That's true. That's very true.
I'm just guessing. Do you know?
I'm guessing too. I'm just guessing.
Do you have a better idea than I do?
Nope. I think I like your idea.
What's funny is that Coomer has like Satanist tattoos, as I recall, doesn't he?
Yeah. I mean, he's a skinhead, self-proclaimed skinhead. But he's a skinhead that likes black people. That's a different one. And Antifa guy. I don't know. He's just an innocent snow. I mean, if you were to read the New York Times, you would think that he is white as a driven snow.
Aren't you black? Aren't you part black?
My family's interracial. Yes. Yeah.
Well, he didn't like you. Didn't like you much.
He didn't like me. But I mean, look, people who lie and cheat and steal things from the American people don't like me. So I mean, it's kind of like, yeah, we're just going to hang out together.
So Patrick, because people are taking in a lot of information, it's difficult to remember the weeds. Can you explain Beatsa's connection to Smartmatic?
Yes. And Joe, this is something you should go do a show about.
Okay, I'll do it.
Microsoft, Apple, all these companies, they have a system that Microsoft doesn't actually own its software. In the very early days, they created another company. It's not a holding company. It's like a sister company that owns all the source code and then licenses it to Microsoft. And then Microsoft licenses it on to et cetera, et cetera. That way, if Microsoft ever gets sued and is told they have to turn over their source code, they can say, hey, I don't own the source code. It's this other company, which is kept so pristine, there's nothing anyone can ever sue it for. So Apple, all the tech companies do that. They always have another company that actually that you've never heard of. Apple has some company with a name like I'll just say Billy Bob. It's just got some totally unrelated name that actually owns the Apple software. So no matter how much you sue Apple, you can bankrupt Apple. You can't get to that other company that owns the source code. Well, and it doesn't do anything other than keep that source code in a vault. Well, that happened in 1997. A company was formed in Venezuela with a name like BizSoftware, BizTA, and that actually owns the code. And then that Smartmatic was built around. Now, who owns this BizSoftware? It's the same 3 Venezuelan engineers that you hear about with Smartmatic, plus a 28% ownership from Hugo Chavez.
Yeah.
From Hugo Chavez. It was actually his chief of staff. The chief of staff of the office of the president of Venezuela was a guy, I forget his name, a Hispanic name. That guy made the investment and owns that 28% of BizSoftware, which owns the Smartmatic. What this really was all created by Hugo Chavez within the CNE, the Consejo Nacional Electoral, the National Election Commission. Then they set it up like this. Smartmatic was just the go-to-market vehicle. And Hugo Chavez and the Venezuelan mafia owns 28% of this. Then they set up this go-to-market vehicle called Smartmatic. And then Smartmatic ended up buying a company called Sequoia, an old 100-year-old American election company when you used to vote on levers and stuff. Bought that company, put all this stuff in it, and then Dominion, a new company called Dominion, which had one election backed by George Soros, comes in and bought that. And that's why there are these guys up on LinkedIn, these engineers whose LinkedIn profiles show, first I was at BizSoftware, then I was at Smartmatic, then I was at Sequoia, then I was at Dominion. That's why the engineer, and they were all in charge of integrating this stuff. And Coomer had something to do with integrating and moving it from one company into that, et cetera. So
he was there through the entire thing, all the way through 2005. And more importantly, when CFIUS investigated in 2006, it was after when they forced the sale of Dominion, or forced the sale of Sequoia to Dominion, or forced the sale and had to put new managers in place. The person that lasted throughout that was a chief architect at the time was Eric Coomer. He was the chief architect. And you would need to have someone with his knowledge base in order to establish the system that was created and the code that was created that became the foundational base of our election systems across every election system out there. With Clear Ballot and Hart InterCivic and Smartmatic and ES&S, they're all based on the same platform that allows for them to cheat. But Dominion has more capabilities in the system because it's a black box that just basically, every time something breaks, they're like, oh, user error. But it's designed that way so that they can then, implement or add things in that change the outcome of elections.
I'm sure, I'm not sure, but I know that they've gone to market, like Smartmatic's name is so polluted in Venezuela that there's a new Latin American company that does election equipment. And I bet anything is the same junk code that traces all the way back to BizSoftware. By the way, there have been times like in Chicago, Smartmatic was used in some Chicago stuff in like 06, 07, 08, and they got sued, or they ended up having to testify under oath. And when asked under oath, who owns this software, under oath, they say, well, it's actually some business guys back in Venezuela. So they don't deny this. The European Union looked into some election in Venezuela, I think in 04, 06, and they wrote an EU report. And of course, the European Union is very conservative, and they wrote a report that Smartmatic had to sign. Pardon me. That Smartmatic had to sign. And that report said, yes, this is ultimately all the code when you pierce through all the licensing and divesting and blah, 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 blah. All this is really owned by some guys back in Venezuela.
Yeah, so Patrick, we start talking about Venezuela being a part of it. We have Serbia that's a part of it. You have China that owned and built the data centers for Dominion through a company called Roaming Networks. Roaming Networks is over in Serbia, or should be in China, or China funded. That's where the first data center for Dominion was built, in Serbia. Now that company was actually financed by Huawei. It's one of their partners, which is obviously one of the largest technology companies, banking institutions in China. And if you chase that all the way back to Roaming Networks, they had basically shell company people at the top of the stairs, nefarious places in Chicago, where they had this thing where they said that Roaming Networks office in the U.S. was really it was just a front. So there's so much that Dominion has done to kind of separate out and make it look like, they'll have little holding companies here, and they'll hide source code behind another wall, and you can't ever tell. It's like this slithery snake where anything is, and then they expect the American people to believe that it's a legitimate business. It's not. It's a front for.
There's one other aspect to that data center in Belgrade, Serbia. We had some interaction with a woman who was something like Martine, who knows a lot, a Serbian who knows a lot about Serbia, and like Martine knows the hither and yon of what's going on in Venezuela. And she says the partner, the local Serbian businessman who built the data center with backing from Huawei, his partner in that is none other than John Brennan, that he had a role in financing and getting that built.
Yeah, this is the part that just drives me crazy. You have other CIA people that are trying to separate themselves and trying to build this establishment. You had the CIA, I forget what his name was, Kurt. He came out and started talking about, Hillary Clinton's diabolical, Brennan's diabolical, and kind of sent a list of the people that he frankly did not like in the CIA that had caused a lot of harm. But it's hard to ignore the fact that the CIA is involved in this specifically. So how do we pull those tentacles out without destroying Wreck-It Ralph, the chessboard, and taking these pieces off the chessboard? Because I almost feel like we're at a disadvantage right now that the establishment is not going to relent the chessboard unless we rip it from their hands. So how are we going to do that?
Well, there's an insurance company that was based in Chicago. I forget, it was either Allstate or State Farm. Do you know which one was based in Chicago back 2 or 3 decades ago?
I can check.
Anyway, they ended up with I only know this because I have my past in the insurance industry. They ended up with a skyscraper with 10,000 people in it, writing each other reports, as Warren Buffett describes bureaucracies.
Allstate.
Say again?
Allstate.
And the CEO fought against this bureaucracy, but he couldn't beat it back. So eventually he bought a cornfield 200 miles away in Iowa or something, and he built an office for 300 people in it, and he called it an R&D center, and he moved the most necessary 300 people out to the R&D center. Once it was up and functioning, they just unplugged the big Chicago skyscraper, and that became the new headquarters. Gary Bernson, who's been my partner in crime these last few years with our team, he says something like that really has to be done with the CIA. You create a new outfit like the OSS, and you pull 500 people into it from the CIA and probably from military intelligence. You create a whole new OSS. Probably you put it under the military. I don't know. This is Gary talking. And then you just unplug the old thing. It's not even that they're all crooked. It's not even that 90% are crooked, or maybe not 10% are crooked. But there is this, Brennan had control of that for a long time. He, at least since 2009. But I think he's still running the CIA, frankly, or at least maybe until some of these recent Bill Pulte changes. I think he's still dictating what they do. And the whole advancement, Brennan did something that the operators in the CIA hate. You always traditionally had your director of operations, those are the people out there doing stuff. Then you have your wonks back home analyzing. Well, Brennan always wanted to be James Bond, never got there. He was a analyst. He only had one assignment overseas, and that was given to him by Gary. Gary made him the station chief in Saudi Arabia, frankly. The same Gary Burnson we've been with, he was the guy who got Brennan appointed overseas because he knew he couldn't rise past a certain point unless he'd been overseas. Anyway, got overseas, comes back. At some point, he had enough juice that he changed everything and he merged the analysts and the operators. Yeah. And they started operating overseas on these joint teams of analysts and operators. And according to everybody I've ever known, they say it was a tremendous mistake. You have these analysts trying to be James Bond and trying to run teams of operators, and it really destroyed the agency, say smart people I know. So I hope you don't have to kill the whole thing because of institutional, I mean, it's part of history and so on and so forth. But maybe what you do is you do what Gary says to this new group, and then you gradually take on more and more functions of the CIA, and as you let it melt, and then the thing becomes your new CIA. That's probably what you have to do.
Well, I mean, look, but the problem is you don't actually know, because the tentacles are so large and their ability to get access to cash and resources are so significant. You don't know where the tentacles of the CIA reside. You don't even know who works for them. I mean, you have people like, what's the guy, Cooper Anderson. I mean, this guy has deep CIA ties that go back decades. His family has the CIA ties. And yet he's been one of the key components of how to misinform the public on what's really happening. So I don't know. I mean, we cut out USAID. I believe that was a foreign vehicle that was used to basically influence and or disrupt the sovereignty of other nations. But there's so many organizations like that. Doctors Without Borders. I mean, I could just go down the line of organizations that are infiltrated by people in the CIA whose main role is to create policy that favors an outcome that maybe doesn't favor the interest of the public in America, but definitely favors this small group of people that control what's happening globally.
Well, the CIA has ways of creating money. And when Elon said he discovered 14 machines scattered through the U.S. government that can just create, he's not talking about printers, he's talking about something else. They can just create as much money as they need off budget. So that may have something to do with, they've also, the Secretary of Treasury, Bessent, who I really love, I think he's historic. He said that they've discovered that NGOs and charities have $14.6 trillion saved. I don't think that came from donations. I think that's probably accumulated through these 14 other machines somewhere. So they have 2-3 years of the entire federal budget stored away in their bank accounts now. And I don't think that didn't come to them from donations.
Well, there's a thing that we have right now. I think that, Stephanie, this is the person you're talking about that bought the Frederico's house. Is it Veruska?
Who are you talking about?
The girl who lived there.
Yeah, that lived in.
Can you show me?
Veruska. Yeah, it was Veruska. You're on it, Joe. That's correct.
Malav, can you put that up, please? I think this is the person that ended up living there with Federico, and she's from Venezuela.
Yeah, and she
no. Patrick, that's the one that you located that is living with Morales.
Yes, Morales. Yes, this is Morales.
Oh,
Morales
both
in Denver.
out of PDVSA.
What's that?
Both from PDVSA Oil.
Yeah, the oil company is really where these people started. Then they got moved into Smartmatic back 27 years ago.
Put it up, please. All right, so here you go. This is Veruska Malav. She got the Reviewer of the Month award from Communications Engineering.
From whom? From whom did she get the award?
I think US Gov.
That's NIST. She got it
National
from
Institute
NIST.
of Standards and Technology. Yeah, in September of 2025. Sorry.
Well, Joe, the number of people where, per their own profiles and resumes, brag about working for Smartmatic in Venezuela for the time period when they were stealing elections for Hugo Chavez. that currently live in this country working for various different companies is just alarming. And Pat, we were discussing this recently, Patrick, and we were just, we know the U.S. government is looking at this, but it's really concerning.
Yeah.
The network that's here.
If you go into the watch industry, if somebody starts making watches in New York or Chile or something, you're probably going to find in any company one or two Swiss people, because Swiss have been making watches for 200 years and they're very good at it, blah, blah, blah. It's just natural. So it's odd in the U.S. election industry.
Yeah. So
how many Venezuelans there are? Do we associate Venezuela with really knowing how to run good elections? But there's these Venezuelans scattered throughout it. What could it mean?
So why is it that we can't get to the bottom of this? We can't be the smartest people in the room. I mean, obviously you're really smart, Patrick, but I mean, what I'm saying is that they have people that work in the government that should be able to uncover this fraud.
Here, Joe.
Well, I mean, I can't see your picture. I just see this hot woman in the middle, and I'm like, who's that? Oh, that's Stephanie.
Looks like she's ready to start a TV action series, isn't she? Stephanie's the brains. She's the brains and the beauty. I'm just the chutzpah. Team.
I love giving Stephanie a hard time about that, though, because people underestimate her a lot.
Isn't it funny how good she is? She's so sharp.
Well, that's actually a lesson I learned from one of my first supervisors when I passed the bar. I was a young attorney, and he said, look, there's going to be a lot of attorneys, that you go against that think you're stupid. Make sure that you don't let them know how talented you are and how smart you are until the very last minute. And that was great advice. That was a lot of fun. But this is and it's not just Venezuela. I can't go into so much that I know because I've been essentially gagged by the DC court. But Joe, there's so much more, and I know you're aware of that, and Patrick's aware of that.
I have patently come out and said I'm no longer following that judge's order. Did you know that Stephanie discovered that the magistrate judge, which is sort of the deputy judge who handles our discovery with Dominion, turns out to be a woman. She's Indian. Not that you hold that against her, but I'm not crazy about our federal judges being foreign born. I'm not sure they have quite.
There's a lot of them.
Yeah, suspiciously. Secondly, she was actually working in the law firm Venable. That's the law firm of Mr. Kamala Harris's husband. It's his law firm. She was working there, and her clients were Venezuela and Maduro up until 2022, where Joe Biden picked her, made her a federal magistrate judge over our case. And she's the one who's been giving these orders that none of this stuff that we have, which is of extraordinary national security importance, no, we can't release it. That's the judge who had Stephanie arrested, put in leg irons, kept for a weekend in the DC jail, and tried to get her on a bus, one of these prison buses that goes to like Oklahoma and Las Vegas. Would have been like 3 weeks before she got back to Detroit. That's the same judge. She was actually Maduro and Venezuela's attorney from 2019 to 2022. That's how corrupt. And so that's overseen by this guy.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. And she reports to Judge Nichols. Now, Judge Nichols is a deep state. Judge Nichols was the guy at the DOJ who poured holy water on the whole system, where the NSA had secret rooms in AT&T and Verizon and everybody else, and was siphoning our data. He's the guy who wrote the policies that poured holy water on that. And the whole thing reports to this Judge Boaz, who's an absolute communist. Boaz. He's shown up in all of this lawfare against Trump. So I think that I keep telling Stephanie when she has a spare moment, we have to write, meaning she has to write, something that says this whole thing has to be moved out of DC. And there's 19 the DC District Court has 19 judges. Every single one of them was involved in sentencing a J6 heroes, and every single one of them took every opportunity to scold them. And this has been such an assault on the American Republic. And who do you think you are? And you should go to jail for 20 years because you walked onto the grass of the White House, of the Congress, blah, blah, blah. They are all going to look like, as all this gets exposed, they look like the biggest schmucks in American judicial history. And they know that. So each of them has a very strong personal incentive to say, to keep all this covered up. So we can't even move this away from Judge Nichols. We have to get this out of DC. And I think there's plenty of precedent for that. There's not a judge in the DC district system who isn't going to look like a schmuck as all this rise, because they all took part to one degree or another in this very hostile, each of them, look how they sentence these people. They sentence them with all this vitriol. Well, it turns out, because we're right, the J6 people were heroes, and all of those judges are having their whole personal reputation for history is destroyed. So they need to keep this covered up. They need to keep this stifled. That's why, even though we've been sitting on this stuff of extraordinary national security importance for years, because they told us we had to, eventually not Stephanie, I chose to violate their orders because it's national security. And I'll answer for it to Judge Nichols. But actually, I think we should move to get this to some fair jurisdiction.
Well, I mean, how do you square the peg or square the hole of all the information that's in this deal, in your case that they sealed? So they sealed off information from public view that was released as a part of the evidence for Dominion voting systems. And then they said, well, nobody else can see it. We're trying to get access to it. In our case, we wrote a subpoena, wrote a motion, sent it over to get access to it. And they're yet to even give us, it's pretty easy. There's information in there that shows that Eric Coomer is again lying about everything. And yet we can't get access to it. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. It's counterintuitive. It goes against the idea that this is a fair and just system.
Bunch of bureaucrats tangled up in their underwear, but they're deliberately, it's worse than that. They're feigning that they're tangled up in their underwear and bureaucracy, but it's really very strategic. Stephanie, what don't you, by the way, I lost half a lung 4 weeks ago tomorrow. So I'm sorry, I'm hacking a bit.
Did they take your lungs? Did they take your lung?
One lobe, the lower lobe of my left lung, but I've got one more on that side and 3 on this side. So I'm good. I got spares. Stephanie, why don't you?
You're such a warrior. It's unbelievable.
I literally coughed up a lung. Stephanie, you take Joe's question. Why can't we just get this to Joe?
The evidence, I've asked the DC court permission to be able to give the documents that I gave to law enforcement to Joe, and it's just difficult. The court has ruled that the magistrate that represented Maduro, the Venezuelan government, Staple Street was co-founded by Stephen Owens and Hutan, and I'm going to butcher this last name, Yagahu something.
Hutan the Persian.
So anyway, Hutan and Stephen Owens co-founded Staple Street, but the judge's firm represented both the Carlyle Group and Cerberus Capital, where Stephen Owens and Hutan were, I think, the managing directors. And then there's the Doug Emhoff. This case involves the 2020 election. He was the second gentleman of the United States, Kamala Harris's husband, while this case has been pending, where the very issue in the case is the legitimacy of the 2020 election. So there's a number of hurdles here to address. But I think Patrick was doing a great job where I can't talk about the documents. Patrick's not supposed to talk about the documents, but all I can say is that I gave them to law enforcement for a reason. And I said in court, they contain the most significant crimes ever committed in U.S. history.
Let me talk about one. Let me talk about one document.
I better drop. I better drop. I was working and Joe asked me to hop on here. I didn't realize, what was going on here today, but I need to drop.
She's running from us, Patrick. She's running from us.
I'm not going to get accused of doing anything improper here. So
And for the public record, do you want to advise me, and not that I'm going to listen, but do you want to advise me that I should not discuss that document?
I just did.
Okay, side note, let the record show Stephanie advised me not to discuss that document. Stephanie, you sign off, so I'm going to discuss the document.
Bye, Stephanie. See you later. All right.
Rasmussen put up on Twitter yesterday. So Stephanie turned this stuff over to law enforcement. And the argument is, at my instructions, the argument is like, you can promise anything you want to another party to keep stuff secret. But when they turn over their discovery, if you find a severed head in the box, it doesn't matter what your private contract is with somebody. I have an obvious legal duty, especially Stephanie as a lawyer and so forth, and me with my obligations. So I instructed her to turn all this stuff over to law enforcement when she found stuff that was really damning. And then law enforcement, Dar Leaf, who had an open investigation, has over time put some of these out in the public domain in letters to Congress. Yesterday, he did yesterday Rasmussen drew attention to some of them. And you ought to look those up. It turns out that, so first of all, Dominion didn't even say they had any employees in Serbia. They wanted to pretend they were an American company. Let me tell you, they got nothing in America. They got a facade in America. The center of gravity is in Belgrade, Serbia. And in Belgrade, Serbia, there's the head of software development. Yeah. He's writing somebody in China about the pads that are coming through customs in Shanghai. So they're getting these pads that come through customs in Shanghai, and then go on and become the pads on which you vote. In a place like Georgia, you go and you vote, and then it connects to a printer and it spits out a QR code that reflects how you vote. Well, it turns out that that's all Chinese. It comes from China. Not only is the pad made there, but China has opportunity to change the firmware. So I know you know what firmware is.
I do.
But for the non-tech geeks, everyone knows what the hardware is, there's the software, the programs you run. But between hard and soft, there's firm. And the firmware of a computer is when you turn the computer on, it's the most basic, BIOS, basic input-output system. It's like the very minimalist software that's burned into the system that says, okay, computer.
It's permanently embedded. It's permanently embedded. It's
permanently embedded. This is your screen. This is your keyboard. This is the connection. Just the very basic stuff. So then it can turn on its hard drive and open up the real operating system. Well, that BIOS, before it gets shipped, China is in there tampering with it. They're in there tampering with that, which means it comes to the United States and you vote on it in any place that you vote on those pads, and then it prints off a QR code. Basically, China is doing the tallying. They are actually in the software that does the tallies, is what that means, of the votes. So this thing, everything is compromised. Everything is compromised.
But Patrick, I want to take a more academic approach to what you just said, because I think it's super important. China can influence any election. Serbia can influence any election. It takes domestic actors to execute on those things. They basically, you could have, say that you can have a machine run the machine, but the machine still would know that this is happening, right? So there's still things that Dominion would know, Polis would know, Coomer would know. They knew, and they were complicit in that behavior that came from China. They had roaming networks build their data center over in Serbia. They used people in Serbia that had not passed any background checks. We were a couple decades removed from Kosovo. It's not like we're good friends. There's people that don't like us over there. They would love to destroy the very essence of what we are as a country. And let's not forget that Dominion voting systems did not start in Canada. It started in Serbia, then moved an office to Canada, then adopted John Polis and merged into another company that John Polis had, and then came to the United States and consumed Sequoia. So there's some major things that I think that, again, I look at it from the perspective of we have Maduro's bookkeeper, we've got Maduro in place, we've got all the things that show how money's been moved around. China is involved in the firmware. This is a global conspiracy of treason in order to subvert the vote of the American people.
Yeah, I think it goes back. There's some evidence. There was a Serbian, this may trace back all the way in Serbia to 1974, which would tell me it was a Soviet KGB operation or GRU operation. So 1974, a very long-term plan to penetrate our election systems. Because once you do, and once you can put a thumb on the scale of elections, somewhere along the line, the ultimate boss shifted to China. And in Xi'an, China, there's a military intelligence institute where they study every nook and cranny of every democracy. There's 3,000 counties in America. I'm sure they have an expert on 3,000 counties. And they knew better than to just flip everything communist, because we'd all wake up and say, well, that was a fake election. So what they've done in the US for 16 to 20 years is change elections from the grassroots up. They know who's running for dog catcher, they know who's running for police chief, they know who's running for prosecutors, and they know who's running for the school boards. So they've changed us in this way that it looks to old timers like me, it looks like a foreign country. Schools teaching that boys can be girls, girls can be boys, and you can learn all about Islam, but you can't say a prayer. Oh my God, if you say a prayer in school. So you can't even have a prayer club. You can have a chess club, you can have a Muslim club, but you can't have a prayer club, Christian prayer club. So the people who have been put in place to make that happen have been this long-term project from China. China is the ultimate, let's say it's a Cuban Venezuelan, they're the offensive guard, offensive tackle of the operation, but behind the halfbacks and fullbacks and quarterback, you get up into places like Serbia and Iran and China.
Yeah, so it gets worse. We have this post. I think we should put it up. I think it's really important. This is from Rasmussen, which says, "Good morning. Remember Dominion. We don't have offices in Serbia. We don't have anything to do with communist China. We don't create election stealing virtual machines. We assure all Americans that our machines parts are safe." And then inside of this, if we can just go down to the actual first one.
Look at the part that's in purple. The parts that are in purple. Can you blow those up and read them?
There we go. So if you look at this, that's the office at the top, which is Manager Software Development and Dominion Votings. And there's an address in Belgrade, Serbia, right? Now, the interesting part about this is that you'll see some interesting names in here. Meanwhile, the tablet's arriving at Shanghai Customs. We're waiting for customs clearance now, expecting next week to get the tablet. And this goes through the things that they have between the U.S. base and, let's go to the next one really quick. I want to show you this. Now, Eric Coomer surprisingly said that he wasn't involved in any of these decisions. And yet, if you go to the second picture, you have some really interesting names here. You have Ronald Morales, you have Nicole Nolet, and you have Eric Coomer. You see that, Eric Coomer? And we are able to establish VPN connections from the new virtual machine created today. So tomorrow morning, we're going to work towards making the necessary changes that can allow us to reach the EMS servers from the VPN connection. I will keep you posted. This is before the 2020 election, Patrick.
Explain that to the non-geeks. What's the importance of the VPN into creating a virtual machine in the EMS? All of which are in that one sentence. Why is that? What do they do?
So basically, it's like having a direct connection to change any outcome variables that you want inside of the EMS. You can literally Wreck-It Ralph do whatever you want. Because remember, there's another thing that if we actually connect to this, you have logs inside the system that were set to like 10 KB, 5 KB. So even if you had access to the EMS system, it would overwrite itself, so it would be able to erase the idea that you were even there to begin with. They can create the outcome, Patrick.
So you go on, the EMS is the county's election management server. It's the central server.
Yes.
And so they can, from Belgrade, come through on a virtual private network, let's not, and create a virtual machine on that county's election machine. So inside the county's election machine, they create a new machine that's not actual physical. You can work with it just like it's its own computer, but it's really just poof, it's just soft, it's all code. You can do something like edit the hard drive, edit the database, change anything you want to change. Then you collapse that virtual server that's inside the county's election server. You collapse it, you cut the VPN connection, and there's now no proof of nothing. You can do audits on that computer. You can do it if you just superficial audits. You can't ever find that like this hidden hand came in and altered anything you want. Only if you get the hard drive. Only if you get the hard drive and you do a forensic audit will you discover that somewhere in the middle of the tallying, a connection was opened and somebody created a virtual machine, and you don't even see that somebody created a virtual machine. It leaves no trace. All you get is that things are changed, which is exactly why they had to run around the country with their golden image and installing it on top of everything, and why they were so discomfited by what Tina Peters did.
So Patrick, you can have multiple VPNs going at the same time, though, virtual machines inside of a machine. You can do allocation inside of it that allows for you to use certain parts of the storage. But you have what are called stored procedures, which allow for you to basically hide and degrade any sort. You could change anything because they could get in, just activate a stored procedure, and they could do the rest for you if you had separate databases. And if you saw what happened in Mesa County, where they had separate databases of voters and output variables. And so when Tina Peters went through and made that image, she was able to uncover that they were running, MySQL management software, which allowed for remote access, that it had a separate database of voters. It was meshing in previous election records with new election records. And all this was overwritten when they put in the new trusted build, right? So we can see that the mechanisms and the machine was designed to defraud the American people. My issue is that why is it so hard for people just to look at it and go, just throw it all out? Paper ballots in person, make sure you have an ID. And why are we going through this struggle? And why are the American people being lied to? And why are we allowing the American people to be lied to by people who are just diabolically trying to make them slaves?
Well, it's like what I learned when I fought Wall Street, that when you find corruption, you think the world works like the Pelican Brief. Julia Roberts figures out what the evil corporation is doing, they're polluting or something. She writes up her term paper, she publishes it, and the DOJ swoops in and the Washington Post swoop in, and everything gets fixed. That's not how the world works. When you have corruption, there's a lot of mouths feeding at the trough and a lot of people benefiting, spread through the system. And all of that comes out of the woodwork to try to attack you. And that's what's gone here. There are enormous forces at work. This is the most valuable prize in history. If they can overthrow the United States, I would argue they did overthrow the United States.
I would agree with that, and it's been done over the last 20 years. This is slow boil.
Yeah, slow boil, and they pushed us over the edge in 2020. We were never supposed to climb back. It's only because of patriots like you, about a dozen of us that kept it from sliding over the edge. And it's like that. There was some Sylvester Stallone movie where he's a climber. And at some point he's thrown over the cliff. And then you see his hand just hanging on to the edge of the cliff, and then he pulls himself back up. That's what happened. We were never supposed to get out of this.
And if it wasn't for the work that you had done as an insider and just basically the conscience of recognizing and having as much experience in this as you've had, I truly, Patrick, you and I have very strong personalities, and we've been fighters in this. But as I go back and I look at the last 6 years, I look at the people that have had the most impact on me continuing to stay in the fight and encouraging me, even if it's from things that I see. And the things that you've given up and the things that you've done, you've lost Tens of millions of dollars.
Oh, 105 million, my accountant says. I'm pretty much broke. I've spent about 105 million on these shenanigans.
And by the way, we have people that are have given a substantial amount of money to you. But the one thing that always came to me that that are still in the process, we have one in particular we're trying to get over the finish line that donated $100,000. But the one thing I can say is that you have never asked other people for help. You're like me in that with more zeros. But you've never asked for help. You've just literally taken the bull by the horn. You created it. You went after it. You said, here's how we solve the problem. You engineered a solution. And you did all this, and I want people to understand this. You did all this while battling health issues that you've faced over decades.
Well, I'll tell you a funny story, and then I'll sign off because I need my voice because I'll be on Alex tonight before Trump speaks.
Did I say too much? Did I say too much about that? I mean, I really...
No, that's kind of you. That's kind of you. Nobody gets it yet. Only insiders get it yet, quite what we did and what I did and such. Very kind of you. I'll tell you a funny story. By about 2022, the end of 22, I'd burned through about $50 million. I had the other 50. I told General Flynn, really, I've had enough. I'm going to go off and, sayonara, you guys take it from here. And Flynn is basically, as he was walking away, he turned around and he said, Pat, I'm not going to tell you how to spend your money, but I got to ask you, what are you saving for? And at this point, I'm single, never been married, no children, nothing.
That you know of.
I've got cancer. I've had 100. I recently had, this was my 119th surgery 3 weeks ago when they took out half my lung. I thought about it for a bit and I said, General, I guess I've been, what am I saving for? I'm saving for what every .com CEO works 100-hour weeks for 20 years. You imagine yourself someday, you're going to be on some 300-foot Russian oligarch's trawler off the coast of Greenland or Iceland or the Aleutians or Chile, wherever the snow's good that time of year, helicopter skiing on the best snow in imaginable all day. You're going to come down at night to delicacies, caviar and Wagyu, and you're going to be attended by women of every shape and color, and just make sure you make that all your needs are met. And General Flynn said, Patrick, that sounds horrible. Don't you think that gets boring after 2 or 3 days? I said, no, sir, it stays interesting for 5 or 6.
Yeah. At some point, you got to get back to solving problems and working the problem. And I mean, you've solved some pretty crazy problems. I mean, with overstock and other things, you were at the tip of the spear for a long time. And so I just want to say this. I want to say that I'm grateful for the things that you've done. I think that people don't understand that as history is written in the future about great men that have done great things to contribute, you'll be counted among the top. And I don't think we'd be in a place where we could save our country, hang from that cliff, if we didn't have you. And I've said this to you before, but that gratitude that I have carries forward, and that it has been my surviving point. You and a few other people have been that saving grace of just understanding truth and just relentlessly pursuing it regardless of the consequences. So I thank you.
Back at you, Joe. You've been a key part of this all along. You remember those times that you were so gung-ho, you were ready to take to the streets, and I was saying, just hold back. I think we have a way through this. We can't go to, if we went to violence. By the way, a senior guy in the FBI who I knew in the background and met with me in 2021, 2022, who said the only reason you guys are still in the game, he was a patriot, he said, is because you haven't gone violent. The other side had a plan for everything you were going to do, except for one thing, and that was staying peaceful. They never expected you to stay peaceful. That's the only reason you've gotten this far, and that was end of 2022.
Yeah, well, I don't particularly like violence, but I've seen enough of it that I recognize that the American people deserve to have peace. We deserve to have opportunity. We deserve to have another 250 years at the helm of a great nation. But I did heed your advice, and As much as I hated the fact that they were hurting people, I've taken a more patient approach and used the but God. And I think,
Can you
but God,
believe
we're
that
here.
the damage they did in the 4 years? We were never supposed to get back. I got to sign off, Joe. Thank
All
you
right,
very
God
much.
bless you. All right, it's good to have you.
Back at you.
All right, take care.
Bye-bye.
There are people that say, that Patrick is eccentric, and I will tell you that he is, geniuses are. People that are literally unafraid of the consequences or the outcome. They're the ones that accomplish great things. There's the people that say that I'm eccentric, but I will tell you that there's a heart. There's a heart for what the country should look like and how it looks today, and I think that Patrick's done a lot to get us to that place. I want to before I go to a break, and I don't know when we're going to have Peter in. I assume he'll be in here soon. I want to play a couple of clips about Trump's speech tonight. And this first one is John Eastman talking about his speech that's coming up tonight. And this will give us a little bit of a peek inside. Let's go ahead and play this first cut.
Dr. Eastman, obviously you are one of those people who were greatly targeted post-2020 election. You were indicted in Georgia, Arizona, right? They came for your bar license for being a quote-unquote election denier. What are you hoping to hear from the president on Thursday night as a person who, obviously, under President Donald Trump, you, Mike Lindell, and others were the next most targeted people. What do you want to hear from him?
I want to hear what the evidence is that we had and had been classified in the deep bowels of the deep state that they were prohibiting being disclosed. I want to know whether the Chinese sought to influence our elections by hacking into our machines. I want to know how many Chinese driver's licenses were falsely deployed to create false citizen claims for people to vote. I want to know all of the information that we have. And I understand, and by the way, just so you know, this stuff has to be explosive because the left, based on leaks from people in the deep state, have already started trying to debunk it, preemptively. So it's got to be explosive. And I really look forward to the T's being crossed and the I's dotted on what evidence there was. We know for a fact, for example, that Mr. Cribbs' statement at the CISA that this was the most secure election in our history was just laughably false. We know for a fact that Bill Barr's statement that there was no evidence of enough fraud to have affected the outcome of the election was false on two grounds. There clearly was election illegality that affected the outcome of the election or had the potential to do that. And the second, he never had actually done the investigations to support that statement. I note the statement was not under oath. It would have been nice to put him under oath on those things. So I'd like to see all of that exposed because, quite frankly, and Mike Lindell, but also Patrick Byrne earlier. Look, and President Trump in his brief response there at the White House today about what he plans on talking about on Thursday, I talked about the consent of the governed earlier in our conversation today. It is a cornerstone of legitimacy of government. None of us were around in 1787 when we adopted the Constitution. Maybe my old friend Rudy Giuliani was, but none of the rest of us were. And we give consent to the governed on an ongoing basis by free and fair elections. If those elections are not free and fair, we're no longer citizens in a free republic. We become subjects of an increasingly tyrannical government, the very subjectship that we threw off when we had a revolution against the king. And so it's beyond just a single election and who won a particular election. This goes right to the heart of what kind of government we're going to have. And I can't think of anything more important to be fighting over. And I'm so glad that Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche and the crew that he has deployed to be looking into this stuff with the prosecutor's eye, what went on, what is the evidence support, and then pass it on to the president to speak about Thursday night.
There you heard it. That's from John Eastman. And then right after that, we had this. And so on Eric's birthday, I want to play this. This is Peter talking about On the Absolute Truth. a Denver court ruling. And just so you guys understand what happened, Eric Coomer and his attorneys tried to silence me, get a protection order that stopped me from speaking about them, talking about them. They said that I was talking about them, which I didn't. Now I am talking about Eric right now, right? It's his birthday, and President Trump's going to be speaking, and there's likely an outcome for him that's not going to be good. Let's go ahead and play it.
And they went after Joe Oltmann, who I think you've had him on your show. Joe knows more about this election fraud than most of the experts. He's right up to date on so much of it. He's a true patriot. He cares about this country, and he's got his own podcast. And on his podcast, he says the truth. He says these guys, that Eric Coomer should, and his lawyers, these people should be tried for treason. Anyway, they think because of that he's dangerous or something. So they make up this nonsense and sued him for a restraining order, to like you would if you had, let's say, a domestic violence case. Same kind of thing. That's what they brought against him. And the judge wasn't fooled. She saw that what this man was saying on his podcast were not threats, that it was just part of what he has to say about the election fraud.
A little bit more truth. We're going to take a break. I'm going to see if I can get Peter Ticktin back on. He's not on yet, but I'll see if we can get Peter Ticktin to come join us to wish Eric Coomer a happy birthday on this celebratory night, because I do believe that, frankly, we're going to see some great things come out of tonight. You can tell that the left is panicking, and they should. Before we go to a commercial break, though, there is a post that I want to put up. I want to play this video, and this video is of Stephen Miller talking. Do you guys have that ready? You have that ready? Okay, so let's go ahead and play this. It's about 2 minutes long. Then we're going to go to a commercial break. Then we're going to come back and talk about this memorandum that basically is going to just change completely the outcome of what the radical left is able to do. And frankly, we're going to get to the bottom of this judicial coup, because that's really the crux of it. But this is Stephen Miller talking about the fact that radical left terrorism, which is what it is inside of our country, can no longer stand. Let's go ahead and play it. We'll go to a commercial break. When we come back, hopefully we got a little Peter with us.
Here in the United States, we have taken the necessary and essential action of formally recognizing left-wing violence as a form of political terrorism that is a direct threat to our national security and the survival of our Republican form of government. President Trump issued a directive. In our parlance, it's called a National Security Presidential Memorandum, or NSPM, NSPM 7 to be exact, that directs, for the first time in American history, all of our law enforcement and intelligence agencies to work together to disrupt, identify, defund, debank, arrest, and prosecute these political terrorists that are operating in our country. It's very important to understand that left-wing political terrorism seeks as its ultimate end the overthrow of our system and form of government. And we've seen this has taken place many times in many places throughout the years, and Secretary Rubio has provided you many examples. Left-wing terrorism always ends in bloodshed, misery, and suffering. It only can travel in one direction. There's no point at which the left-wing terrorist is satisfied with his gains and ceases progressing. Inevitably, left to run its course, it always becomes a gulag. It always becomes the mass imprisonment of political enemies, the stripping of their rights and freedoms, inflicting immense pain, humiliation, suffering, in order to establish complete and total control. Control through psychological and physical and actual terror. And we have to understand that that is the scope and the extent of the threat that we face.
Oh, hi. I almost didn't see you there. Welcome to DCF Buns, where you can find the freshest buns in town, if I do say so myself. Our master bakers teach class every week, so whether you're new to baking or trying to improve your culinary skills, we got you covered. And we can help you bake the cake of your dreams. We'll even clean your cake if you want. And if you don't want to bake anything yourself, we have loads of fresh buns available in a variety of shapes and sizes. Check us out at dcfbuns.com to learn more. DCF Buns, we keep the buns hot and the deals hotter. Buns.
In every thread, in every stitch, Honor-Bound USA weaves the fabric of the American spirit. It's not just apparel, it's a testament to God, family, and country. At Honor-Bound USA, we're a family of patriots who put our faith, family, and America first. When you visit our website, you'll find a line of products that embody our commitment to pray, stand, speak, and act. As the official site for the Untamed podcast, all of our products proclaim speaking the truth with courage. We also have the powerful documentary from Professor David Clements, Let My People Go. Identify yourself as one of the few who are willing to stand for what they believe in. Join the Honor-Bound USA family today. Wear it as a badge of honor, commitment to the values that shape us, and a pledge to the bright future we will build together. Because when you're honor-bound, you're not just wearing a brand, you're embodying a lifestyle.
Okay, so we're back on. We'll have in 10 minutes. We will have Peter Ticktin will come join us. But I want to talk about the consequences for a minute. I mean, the last 6 years have been pretty incredible. Now, some of it's been good, some of it's been bad. I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot about how each party steals elections inside their own party to get represented. So the representative part of the representation of the party, and that it doesn't hardly matter where you turn. There's a justification of why they can cheat or manipulate the system in order to get an outcome. And that's to be expected. That's happened for 100 years. 100 years people have been doing that. Republican Party, Democrat Party. You could argue that right now it's gotten to the point where it's so thirsty and the amount of fraud is so significant that the people don't feel that the people that ever on either side of the party represent anything related to the interests that people feel inside their communities. Now, with that said, there's a resurgence that's happening right now. The American people are waking up to the idea that both parties have betrayed them in ways that are not even fathomable. We have the House, we have the Senate, we have the presidency. We should have passed the SAVE Act on day 2 of President Trump's term. It shouldn't have been Republicans that stood in his way and tried to limit his ability to get things done domestically or on the foreign basis. It shouldn't have happened. We should have been put in a place where, frankly, President Trump came in and wrecked it, Ralph, and he should have had unilateral support because that's what the American people wanted. Remember, 29% of a population that would not have voted for President Trump before the Biden 4 years, the illegitimate election, voted for him. And in large part, we talk about the interference and what they were able to do to make sure that the outcome of the election favored President Trump in 2024, stopped the fraud from happening. You heard Elon Musk say it's done when he knew that he stopped what was happening in Serbia from reaching our shores. All of that can be true. And yet, we still face something rather significant. And that is, the Republicans betrayed us too. Mike Johnson, John Thune. These are familiar names. You have Mitch McConnell. The guy couldn't fog a mirror, brain dead. They won't even say what's really happening with him. There's an institutional dishonesty that we face every day about what happened during the COVID era. And we still do not have any sort of truth. We were able to get to the bottom of what's happened with the vaccine. And they've walked past it as if we'll just skip on over. We still got enough stupid people in the United States, we can make money on it. And even though you have someone like Bobby Kennedy that's sitting inside of the HHS that is, basically Wreck-It Ralph at all the expectations of what Big Pharma is able to do, they're just ignoring him. We can see it. They now have to admit that the chemtrails are a real thing. I don't know to what extent. That they can manipulate the outcome of weather. I don't know to what extent. But let's be honest, the government hasn't told us the truth about anything. And when President Trump comes out and doesn't get enough things done for you, it's not because of his lack of desire to get it done. It's a lack of courage and conviction, selflessness to serve the American people within our own party. Because otherwise, we would have gotten it done. We would have broken the filibuster, gone ahead, passed the SAVE Act, move along, and wrecked the Democrat Party for at least the next 50 years. But when you have weak people in positions of power and authority that are controlled by people in our own communities, let's talk about Colorado. You got people like Anschutz. You don't think that that guy is Wreck-It Ralph? He wrecks it just to benefit himself as long as he can keep his billions. People like Bill Owens and Sean, what's that guy's name? Sean Tonner. People that have been a part of the political establishment for decades, that have done everything they can to destroy the Republican Party while saying, I'm here to help. Barb Kirkmeyer became its latest victim. Victor Marx, a guy that literally is about as diabolical as you get. Everyone says, well, you gotta vote for him because he's a Republican, but he's not. He just started being a Republican. He just stepped out and said, yeah, that's what I want to do. And the people that support him, a lot of bot accounts, but the people that support him are just looking for power for themselves, not for any meaningful change that would help the American people or the people of Colorado for that matter. Our government and our judiciary are rotted so far to the core that even if you do get justice, most of the people that need that justice are long gone and dead before justice reads the lips of the people that should have proclaimed it decades before. And there's victims. The American people have become victims. We're slaves in our own environment. And let me tell you what politics do. Politics allow for someone like Mamdani to be put in a position of power and authority inside of our country through fraudulent and fake elections. Someone like Spanberger, a CIA agent, to become the governor of Virginia. Or someone like Gavin Newsom to have the ability in his environment to steal elections with impunity, use Smartmatic to steal mayoral races, burn down entire communities that they planned for weeks beforehand. They were having conversations about the impending fires that were coming, picking winners and losers. Now let's talk about what happened in New York City as a result of Mamdani. There's a 174-year-old church that was intentionally burned down by arsonists. And they could have saved it. They could have saved it. But instead, they have a guy, the agency says, no, we're going to demolish the church. And the decision was made by a man that was appointed by Mamdani. His name is Ahmed. Figures, right? It figures that we would have radical Islamists blow up 2 buildings in New York City, and then a radical Islamist TikTok video maker named Mamdani be made the mayor. Make it make sense. 174 years old. It basically is the light of our heritage as a nation. And this foreigner decided we're not going to rebuild it. Go ahead and play it.
The FDNY announcing this blaze that consumed the South Bushwick Reformed Church is being investigated as arson.
We have no known enemies.
Church pastor James E. Stewart says up until the fire, the congregation met weekly. A community staple, the church also acted as an event space and a food pantry. He adds he has no clue who would do something like this.
Now we understand that it is intentional, and so that, of course, brings another layer of grief.
The National Registered Landmark was built in 1863 and has stood tall on Bushwick Avenue ever since, acting as a beacon in the community. Archival photos show a church that watched the neighborhood grow around it, but that beacon became a target in late June, and the South Bushwick community is left heartbroken.
I think it's messed up because it's been here forever. My aunt got married in this church.
That's incredibly upsetting. I mean, if it was arson, that would be really just shocking and upsetting because, like Lee said, it's a historical landmark and it means a lot to people.
While the goal is to rebuild in the future,
I want nothing more for it to be restored. It's seen so many generations.
a pastor and congregation forced to lead generations of worship in the past, asking why their haven was done harm.
Whoever it is that's responsible for it ultimately has to answer to God.
The pastor tells me the church will need to be torn down completely, a process that's expected to be finished by August of this year. They would love to rebuild in its entirety, but that process could take a long time, and it's not guaranteed. In Bushwick, Alan Devlin, CBS News, New York.
Torn down. Torn down. And if that's not enough, the video that you just heard from Miller, from Stephen Miller, talks about institutional radical leftist ideologies that is terrorism. They don't have an end. Their end is ultimate destruction of people because they're just miserable, evil people. That's what the left represents. So here's a video made by the Northern Colorado Democrat Socialists of America. This is a real video in Colorado. Play it.
Hello, comrades. Thanks to everybody who came out to our drag show, Rebel Yell 2, this past Saturday. It was an amazing night of art, community building, and rebellion. If you'd like to continue the party and keep helping the fight for trans rights, consider joining DSA and participating in our trans rights working group. We'd love to see you there. We also have a great opportunity this Tuesday for some community care. Come volunteer with us at the community kitchen, and afterwards we'll grab a bite and watch the primary results. On Thursday, there will be a potluck/group viewing of a webinar featuring Rose Roach, National Coordinator for the Labor Campaign for Single Payer and Chair of Healthcare for All, Minnesota. Bring a shareable side, and don't forget to RSVP in advance. And remember that this Tuesday, the 30th, is the last day to vote in the primaries. The best way to change the system is by getting involved in it, and voting is one of the best first steps to do that. If you need a second opinion, feel free to take a gander at our voting guide on our website. Solidarity, comrades, and thanks for getting active.
Solidarity, comrades. And if that's not enough, this is real. These people this isn't role playing. They want to destroy everything for the benefit of people that are pretending to be something that they're not. Here's what is happening on the streets of Queens under Mondani and, of course, obviously, AOC. Play it.
Queens, New York, AOC's district, this is what is going on. All of these people here that are selling on the street have crossed into America illegally. A lot of them have been here for up to 3 years, so they're settling in. A way to make money is for them to come and sell goods on the street. This literally looks like I don't even know how to describe it. It's an outdoor garage sale, but it looks like Goodwill bins have just been dropped off here. However, right next to it is this store, Lot for Less. How would you feel if you owned that store and you have all these people out here selling all these goods? Most of the people are coming to buy from these people. They don't have vending license and they don't have any sort of license. When police come, they quickly gather their goods and they go on their way. This is what is happening in Queens, New York. If you visit New York, you want to come for some really good garage sales, come on up here, and you don't know what you'll find. There's lots of treasures right here that people are trying to sell.
All right.
So this is...
Well, we actually have Peter Ticktin. I don't want to waste any more time because he is a busy man, and I believe he is going to be watching very closely the president's announcements tonight. So, Peter, welcome to the show. Oh, you're muted. Got you muted.
I'm sorry about that.
There you go.
I can't wait until 9 o'clock tonight to see what the president has to say. You know, there's a lot of speculation out there. People think he's going to talk about, well, the guesses that I have from people that are more knowledgeable than most is that he's going to be talking about the election fraud that you're an expert on, Joe. Peter, we got to get it into the minds of the public.
It's also Eric Coomer's birthday.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
So
you mind if I don't celebrate?
I
is
think
that all right?
I don't believe in coincidences. This is the man that basically, was on the grand jury, testified to the grand jury, lied to the grand jury in Georgia to get President Trump indicted. Do you think that maybe there's something to this, the fact that it's on his birthday that he's making this announcement?
No. I don't think that anybody has enough respect for Eric Coomer or his birthday to
unless
give
it's an arrest.
Damn.
Unless it's an arrest. I mean, that'd be kind of nice. Always watching it and see the arrest.
Yeah. No. Look. Our country's been invaded. You know it. I know it.
Yeah.
And they didn't do it with guns and weapons and bullets. We would have known what to do with that. They were smarter than that. They invaded by surreptitiously infiltrating our election system. And Eric Coomer is a part of it. So he's an enemy of the United States. He's a traitor. You know, I've heard you suggest that, you know, he should be dealt with the worst penalty the law can provide, you know, and obviously through the legal processes. But he is a traitor to the United States. And so let's just see where that goes. Okay. I mean, he's not in the United States anymore. I'm not sure where he is.
Well, let me ask you a simple question. When we go down this road, President Trump says, here's the election fraud. The resistance that he's up against is not the will of the people. The will of the people has spoken. They've said, listen, 82%, 85% of the American people said, you know, put it to bed already. Pass the SAVE Act, get rid of mail-in ballots, get rid of the machines running all of this nonsense, in-person paper ballots at a precinct level, make sure that you count them there. And yet there's still this thing, this underlying thing where the Congress won't act. They won't do what's best for the American people on either side of the aisle.
Well, I mean, you're really talking about Thune. You're not talking about, you're talking about one man from, where's he from? North Dakota?
Yeah.
Who, I mean, a wonderful state, but a state with a very small population. So he's in there representing very few people. And this one man is tying up our entire ability to get things done in the Senate. What a fool he is. And, you know, I guess he's a rhino, you know, a Republican in name only. For sure, he's acting against the country. And, you know, I know, well, let me put it to you this way. Donald Trump, when he said, and he said it over and over again, and every single time it gave me goosebumps, but he would say that they're coming after you, and I just happen to be standing in the way.
Yes.
And every time, you know, and that's the case. He's the guy. And if you're not in favor of Donald Trump, or if you've got 50% of you that's against Donald Trump, or 10% of you that's against Donald Trump, that 10% is in favor of China. Because it's not as though we have two parties anymore, Republicans versus Democrats. Republicans really have been taken over by MAGA, which is absolutely a wonderful thing. But the Democrats have been taken over by China, which is hell on earth. And if you're not in favor of Donald Trump, if you're against Donald Trump, or 10% of you is against him because you don't like the fact that he's in Iran or whatever your reasons are, you're not realizing it, but 10% of you is in favor of the enemy of the United States.
Well, how do we reconcile, and this is just me kind of trying to figure it out in my head, how do we reconcile the pressure that is necessary in order to get Congress to act accordingly? I mean, you have Kurt Olson, who runs this election group that's advising President Trump, and he's working towards an end with the DOJ in order to get to a conclusion. But Peter, we know about these election systems. We know how fraudulent they are. We know who's involved in it. Why are indictments so slow? And why are we in this place where we have to question what we can see with our own eyes, given the massive amount of evidence?
Well, my understanding is that things are going to be breaking. I think that Todd Blanche is a bit different than he used to be, in that he is pursuing these things, or that's what I've been heard. Obviously, the proof is going to be in the pudding. We need to see it in order to believe it, and I do too. So you can't take my word for it because I don't know. But I do believe that we're going to see some good things happening come the very near future.
Are you going to be in DC for the announcement, or are you not going to
No,
be
but
joining?
I think I'll be seeing him on Saturday.
Awesome. So great.
I'm hoping.
Peter, I know you have a heart out in 2 minutes. Had a great conversation with Patrick, and Stephanie joined us as well. I cannot thank you enough for all the work that you've done and continue to do. And we're pressing hard. I do want to tell everyone that there is a way that you can help support the work that Peter is doing. There's a direct way that you can actually give to the campaigns that Patrick and this is a big fight. But Peter, how can people give to the campaigns?
Well, it's Condemned USA. That's run by Trennis Evans. And I really have to get more familiar with exactly how to sign on. But if you go to my website, I'll make sure we put something on there for Condemned USA as a way to contribute to what truly is the war.
Okay, so I want everybody to know, if you had to ask me, Joe, what do you want for your birthday? What do you want for your birthday? What do you want for what do we want for Eric's birthday? I'm going to tell you what I want for Eric's birthday. I want everybody for Eric Coomer's birthday to donate to Condemned USA. Trennis Evans runs that. It's an organization that's done some pretty great things. This is an organization where you can actually give. You can go there, hit the donate button at the very top. You can do it on a continual basis. If you're asking me what I would want you to do, I want you to donate to Condemned USA to help fund the efforts that Peter and Stephanie and Patrick, what's been going on in order to get us to a place where we have free and fair elections and we can put people who are responsible for stealing our elections where they belong, behind bars.
Yes, please, God, let's do that. Let's get these people and let's get them behind bars, because you know what? We're the last place left on earth. And if we start losing what we now have, there's nothing else that's going to save us. There's all kinds of scenarios. These machines could actually take the Senate with a vast majority. They can give them the 67% that they need in order to be able to remove whoever the House impeaches. So, this is a tragic situation. So anyway, we gotta look at that, because if that did happen, then come January 5th, after the midterms, then you would see that the House would impeach and the Senate would remove. And who would they do it to? Well, the first thing that would happen on January 5th is Hakeem Jeffries would be made the Speaker of the House.
Yeah.
It's definitely going to be Hakeem Jeffries. And then if they remove not just President Trump, you're right about that, but it's much more. They would remove President Trump and J.D. Vance at the same time. And that's the scary part, because that would make Hakeem Jeffries president of the United States. That's how bad this is. That's how scary it is. And that's why, more than anything, more than money, more than anything else, you're going to need to get out and vote come the midterms. Yes, the machines can do what they can do, but we can deal with that. But we can't deal with it if we are actually going to lose the election anyway. You need to get out there. We need to be able to win the election and deal with all of these things appropriately. So, that's the nightmare scenario, but it can be prevented and dealt with, but only if you vote.
Only if you vote. Peter, thanks for joining us. I appreciate you very much. God bless you, and I look forward to talking to you soon.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. Always good to be on your show. Thank you so much.
Peter Ticktin is one of my favorite people, probably one of the most. He just turned 80 just a few months ago, but he's got more energy than 99% of the people out there. And frankly, I was rooting for when this whole thing happened down in Florida and Charlie Kane assaulted him. I'm not telling you what I thought. Well, I was hoping it was going to happen, but I was hoping he'd pound him out a little bit. I want to play this. This is kind of breaks us out. This will finish up the hour for us. I want to thank you for being with us. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, iHeartRadio, tune in and more. See us on Roku, so from on your TV. Hello. Hi, Mom. Carolyn Levitt She just came back from maternity leave and had this to say about Trump's speech tonight. Let's go and play it.
Has had dozens of recounts, lawsuits, audits. 2024 election widely believed to be safe and secure. There's not really any question about that. A lot of people look at
Because it
this.
was too big to rig.
Well, I think a lot of people look at this
There's a
and
massive amount of votes for this president. That's why he's in the Oval Office right now.
No one disputes that. And there were a significant amount of votes for Joe Biden, who won in 2020. I think the question is, why is the president unable to let this go?
Well, first of all, Garrett, I think part of the problem is that the media has refused to acknowledge that tens of millions of Americans across the country share the concerns of this president about the sanctity of our elections. And your premise of your question, you're jumping ahead to a conclusion in this speech before even hearing it yourself. I think that everyone should tune in tonight, including the people in this room, and you should report on the president's speech and the findings that he is going to reveal in this speech with a little bit of honesty and a little bit of integrity, because it will shock you if you have an honest eye listening to the president tonight, and everything he is saying will be backed by facts and by evidence that will be provided this evening. And again, Garrett, I think all Americans, Democrat, Republican, should agree that we are the greatest country in the history of the world. We should have the safest and most secure elections in the history of the world. And what the president will be speaking about tonight will show you that perhaps that is not the case, and we need to make some adjustments moving forward, including the Save America Act, as Rachel pointed out, is a key legislative priority for this president on Capitol Hill, and he wants to see all senators and members of Congress voting in favor of the Save America Act.
There you have it. Everyone wants to tell us that the elections in 2024 are safe and secure, and that you can't say anything about it. We haven't had a secure election in 20 years. The gaslighting that's happening right now in our country about elections is absolutely, it's disgusting. It's disgusting. Until we get rid of machines and mail-in ballots, until we get to a place where it's in person and it's counted at a precinct level, you are going to continue to be a slave. They're going to continue to have 56% become 60%, become 65%, become 70%. And this country will still go into a place of disrepair. It'll still go to a place that's just absolutely rife with corruption everywhere, with a rotted judiciary and henchmen that basically tell you to sit down, slave. We'll tell you what's safe and secure. That's where we're at right now. All right, so let's go ahead and pray it out if we can. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to tonight. It's going to be pretty awesome. Joe got 20 million extra phantom votes. I think it was more like 30. I agree with you, though. Thank you to Peter, Patrick, Peter. Absolutely. Thank you. Stephanie. Let's see what other comments we got up there. Awesome show today, Joe. Thank you. Thank you for that. Go ahead and be the ambassador of truth and share it. I see we got at least one Eric Coomer out there that, yep, Eric Coomer's watching us. He wanted to see the video. Eric, happy birthday. I hope you get it, bro. Hope you get it. Jira. Joe is right again. Thank you, Gammy. Always good to hear from you. All right. Father God, thank you very much for thank you. Thank you for the blessings in our lives. Thank you for the trials in our lives. Thank you for the people that you've put in our lives. Thank you for the truth. And thank you for the fact that truth only has one direction, and it only has, it's either true or it's not true. There's no your truth, my truth. There is only the truth. So, Father, we're grateful for the courage and the commitment and the wisdom that you've given us to be able to navigate the last 6 years. We're incredibly grateful for President Trump and the fight that he's been willing to have over the last 6 years, 10 years. Father, we're grateful for the people around him that have not betrayed the American people, and we're grateful for the many, many patriots all over the country that have been standing up for restoration, restoring you to our communities and to our country, and taking this evil and putting it into the hole that it came out of. Father, we ask for wisdom and we ask for patience, and we ask for tonight that President Trump just does some miraculous things that get us to the bottom of finalizing what can only be described as pure evil being unleashed on the American people. Help us, Father, to, regardless of what is said tonight, to continue to fight forward, to create unlikely alliances, set aside petty differences, and embrace each other in such a way as Americans that we can restore and fix this country, this beautiful country that for 250 years has been a blessing to so many people. Father, we also know that we require, that things require time. Things happen on your time frame, not ours. So Father, I just ask you that you will give us the ability to maintain our faith, maintain our hope, lift the burdens off our shoulders, and allow for us to go forward regardless of what happens tonight. I say these things, Father, humbly in Jesus' name. Amen. All right, I will see you guys later. God bless you. Susan Rice, always good to see the good Susan Rice. We know what the other Susan Rice is doing right now, playing for Team Evil. Now go back to the beginning and hear what I missed. Oh, you're going to go back? Yeah, go back and watch it. It's a fantastic show. We'll run the reruns here in a bit. And again, make sure that you share us. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Roku. And we got some crazy stuff that's about to launch. Think by the 15th of August, we'll announce it at the 1st of August. Imagine having the ability to get amazing content. I can't even tell you. I'm not even going to ruin it for you. But we've got some pretty amazing things that are coming up here very shortly. So God bless you. I'll see you guys tomorrow.
Rise up untamed in the heart of the fire where the wild ones roam. Joe Oltmann's calling, bringing truth back home. From conservative daily to this untamed fire, we shatter the silence, lifting spirits higher. No chains can hold us, no lies can prevail. Authentic and fearless on this rugged trail. Patriots gather under stars and stripes. Untamed nation, igniting the night. Untamed nation, let the truth roll out in this land of the free. Standing proud from sea to shining sea, we won't back down. Catch the fire, wear the crown. Untamed nation, it's our battle song, motivating hearts where the brave belong. Yeah, untamed and wild, forever strong. Play it again all night long. Time to heal. Joe's voice leads the untamed crew. Truth matters through and through. Untamed nation, let the truth roll out in this land of the free. Standing proud from sea to shining sea.